Florida is the one piece of the natural world you believe you have successfully paved over. You walk out to your driveway in the morning, the air is already heavy, thick with the kind of subtropical humidity that coats your lungs and blurs the horizon. You hear the steady, rhythmic ticking of the irrigation sprinklers watering the perfectly green St. Augustine grass. You see the screened-in lanais, the immaculate golf courses, the retention ponds reflecting the pastel dawn. You let the dog off the leash. You reach down to pull a weed by the mailbox, and you do not think, not once, about what is holding perfectly still in the mulch just 3 inches from your bare hand. It is the safest, most engineered ground you know, and almost nothing living in it has ever agreed to that arrangement. That softness, that artificial perfection, is a kind of camouflage. Florida is not a tame state that happens to contain a few snakes. It is a prehistoric, hostile jungle that we simply poured concrete over, and the original residents never left. They just learned how to use our subdivisions as hunting grounds. The humidity, the dense vegetation, the endless network of canals. It is the most biologically active environment in the country, a green so thick and so old that it can hide almost anything, and does. Most lists of dangerous animals send you somewhere remote. The deep Amazon, the Australian outback, the center of the Sahara. This one doesn't move an inch from your zip code. Today, we are counting down the 10 deadliest snakes in Florida, but we are ranking them by 2 things at once: how devastating their biology is to the human body, and how completely you fail to notice them in your daily routine. Ranked not by which one looks the most intimidating in a textbook, but by how seamlessly they have adapted to the places you sleep, work, and play. And here's the shape of it. We start with the ones hiding in the northern woods. We move into the water. We wade into the terrifying reality of what the exotic pet trade has unleashed upon the southern swamps. And we end with something you cannot see from your own back door. By the time we reach number 1, the idea of a snake in the grass is going to stop being a metaphor, and you will understand why the deadliest animal on this list is the one that might already be resting against the foundation of your own home, completely unnoticed. Before we start, if you have a yard, a porch, or even a patio anywhere in the Sunbelt, go ahead and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it is for people who actually want to know what is out there, not just the postcard version. And tell me one thing, which Florida county are you watching from, and what is the closest you have ever come to a snake without realizing it? Drop it in the comments, I read them. Let's get into the list. Number 10, the southern copperhead. You would not think of the Florida Panhandle as the primary domain of a snake famous in the Appalachian Mountains, but the copperhead thrives in the damp, shaded ravine systems of the Apalachicola River Basin. An adult grows to about 3 feet long, heavily bodied, with pale brown and striking hourglass-shaped crossbands spanning its back. These snakes prefer the hardwood hammocks, the leaf litter, the decaying logs of Torreya State Park and the surrounding counties. What makes the copperhead dangerous is not an overwhelming venom yield. It is its absolute, unwavering faith in its own camouflage. When a copperhead hears your heavy footsteps approaching on a wooded trail, it does not flee. It does not rattle a warning. It freezes. Its pattern perfectly mimics dead oak leaves and dappled sunlight. It trusts its disguise so completely that it will allow you to step within half an inch of its head without moving a muscle. And because people assume Florida's danger is entirely contained in the southern swamps, they hike these northern woods in sneakers and shorts, stepping blindly over fallen timber. When the strike happens, it is a blur of motion followed by a sudden, searing heat. The venom is hemotoxic. It does not shut down your nervous system. It attacks the blood and tissue directly. It breaks down red blood cells and destroys muscle fiber, causing immediate, profound swelling and a pain that feels like liquid fire spreading up your calf. It is rarely fatal to a healthy adult, but it will put you in the hospital, and it will leave you with permanent tissue damage if ignored. People assure themselves that the woods are empty just because they are quiet. Number 10 goes to the snake that proves the northern forests are just as unforgiving as the southern swamps, and that silence is often a trap. Number 9, the timber rattlesnake. Locals call it the canebrake rattlesnake, and it is a ghost of the pine flatwoods and cypress swamps of northern Florida. This is a massive, heavy-bodied viper that can easily exceed 5 feet in length. It is pale grayish-brown with jagged, black, chevron-shaped crossbands that point forward down its back, ending in a velvety black tail. You can find them across the Osceola National Forest and down through Alachua County, hiding in the palmetto scrub and the dense underbrush where the light barely reaches the ground. The timber rattlesnake carries a terrifying amount of venom, and in some populations, that venom is a horrific cocktail. It contains both the tissue-destroying hemotoxins typical of rattlesnakes and, in certain regions, a neurotoxic peptide that can cause systemic paralysis. A full bite delivers enough venom to kill a human adult several times over. But here is the denial. People think of rattlesnakes as aggressive, buzzing creatures of the desert that announce their presence from 100 feet away. The timber rattler is not like that. It is incredibly secretive. It is a sit-and-wait predator that can remain coiled in the exact same spot for days, waiting for a rodent to pass. Because it is so docile, you will not hear it rattle until you are already on top of it. Hunters, surveyors, and hikers walk through the palmetto thickets completely oblivious to the fact that they are stepping past one of the most toxic vipers in North America. By the time the rattle sounds, it is usually because your boot has already disturbed the brush hiding its body. It strikes with blinding speed, driving fangs deep into the muscle and injecting a massive payload of venom that begins digesting tissue the second it enters the bloodstream. Number 9 is the ghost of the pine barrens, waiting in the shadows for a mistake you do not even know you are making. Number 8. The dusky pygmy rattlesnake. Do not let the size fool you. The dusky pygmy rattlesnake rarely grows longer than 20 inches. It is stout, gray, heavily patterned with dark blotches, and often features a faint rust-colored stripe running down the center of its back. It is small enough to coil up completely on the surface of a dinner plate, and yet, this tiny, unassuming snake is responsible for more venomous snake bites in the state of Florida than almost any other species. It lives everywhere. From the Panhandle down to the Keys, the pygmy rattler thrives in the damp, sandy soil of Central Florida. But it does not stay in the woods. It moves into residential areas, seeking the moisture and cover of everyday suburban life. It hides beneath AC condenser units. It curls up inside coiled garden hoses. It buries itself in the thick, damp mulch of flower beds right next to the front door. The danger comes from two things. First, its rattle is so small that it does not sound like a traditional warning. It sounds like the faint buzzing of a cicada or a distant insect. You will not hear it over the sound of a lawnmower, a passing car, or even the wind. Second, despite its size, the pygmy rattlesnake is fiercely defensive. It will not back down. When a homeowner reaches barehanded into the garden to pull a weed, the snake strikes. The venom is highly hemorrhagic, causing excruciating pain, immediate swelling, and severe bleeding in the affected tissue. It might not kill you, but it will cost you a finger, a hand, or a month of your life in agonizing recovery. People walk into their yards believing they are stepping into their own private sanctuary. Number 8 is the reminder that in Florida, the deadliest things do not always give you the courtesy of a loud warning. Number 7. The monocled cobra. I know what you were thinking. Cobras do not belong in Florida. They belong in the rice paddies of Southeast Asia and the jungles of India. But Florida's ecosystem has a dark underbelly, fueled by decades of the exotic pet trade and a climate that welcomes anything with scales. In 1992, Hurricane Andrew flattened the southern tip of the state, ripping the roofs off of massive exotic reptile breeding facilities in Homestead. Thousands of non-native, highly venomous snakes were blown into the Everglades and the surrounding suburbs. And they survived. The monocled cobra is just one example of the terrifying exotics that have been captured roaming free in Florida neighborhoods. We are talking about Ocala, Swanee, and Miami-Dade. These are highly intelligent, incredibly fast elapids that deliver a potent neurotoxin. When a cobra strikes, it does not destroy tissue like a rattlesnake. It attacks the nervous system. The venom blocks the transmission of nerve signals. Within minutes, the victim experiences a heaviness in the eyes. Speech becomes slurred. Then, the diaphragm simply stops receiving the signal to pull air into the lungs. You suffocate while completely conscious. The denial here is geographical. Floridians assure themselves that if they can just identify the 6 native venomous snakes, they are safe. They memorize the shapes and the colors. But then a homeowner in a gated community opens their garage door to find a 5-foot Asian elapid reared up, hood flared, staring back at them. The state had to create Venom 1, the first and largest fire rescue venom response unit in the country, specifically to stockpile antivenom for snakes that have no business being on this continent. Number 7 is the nightmare imported from a different world, living quietly in your own. Number 6, the African rock python. I know what the title of this list says. You came here for venom. But if you want the truth about Florida, you have to understand that the rules of biology here have been permanently broken. And to ignore the giants that squeeze the life out of the swamp simply because they lack fangs would be a lie. The African rock python is one of the largest and most aggressive snake species on the planet, and they are here. An established breeding population was discovered in the Bird Drive Basin just west of Miami, living completely undetected in a patchwork of canals and sawgrass right on the edge of the sprawling suburbs. These snakes can reach 20 feet in length. Unlike other constrictors, which tend to be docile, the African rock python is notoriously ill-tempered. It will actively strike at humans, unprovoked. When a snake this massive attacks, it does not rely on poison. It relies on overwhelming mechanical force. The jaws, lined with rows of backward curving teeth, lock onto flesh with a grip that cannot be broken. In a fraction of a second, the heavy coils wrap around the victim. They do not kill by suffocation, as people commonly believe. The pressure is so immense that it stops the heart from pumping blood. The cardiovascular system simply collapses under the weight of the coils, causing cardiac arrest in seconds. The fact that an apex predator from the African continent is reproducing in the sawgrass a few miles from Miami International Airport is something most residents refuse to think about. Number 6 is the proof that the swamp does not care about our rules, our boundaries, or our definitions of what makes an animal deadly. We are at the halfway point, and if you are still with me, you are clearly someone who actually wants to know what this state is really holding. You are not looking for the sanitized, tourist-friendly version of the world. You want to see the mechanics of the wild as it actually exists. So if you haven't yet, this is the exact moment to hit subscribe. Because the animals from here up are the ones people flat out refuse to believe are real, and the danger stops being something you can easily walk away from. Let's get back into it. Number 5, the anacondas. If the rock python was a localized nightmare, the green and yellow anacondas represent the ultimate fear of the Florida water system. These are aquatic giants, the heaviest snakes in the world, and over the last decade, multiple specimens have been captured in the wild in Florida, particularly around the Fakahatchee Strand and the dense, swampy networks of Collier County. These are animals perfectly evolved for slow-moving, warm, vegetation-choked water, which describes exactly 100% of southern Florida. A green anaconda can weigh over 200 pounds. It hides entirely submerged, with only its eyes and nostrils breaking the surface of the dark, tannic water. It waits for a mammal to come to the edge to drink, or in the case of Florida, it waits for a dog, a wild hog, or a human to walk too close to the retention pond. The strike is explosive, launching hundreds of pounds of muscle out of the water in a blinding flash. It drags its prey backward into the depths, coiling and drowning it simultaneously. People living in Naples and Fort Myers look out at their backyard canals and think the only thing they have to worry about is a stray alligator. They let their kids play on the muddy banks. They fish from the culverts. They do not comprehend that the exact same water could be hiding a South American river monster capable of swallowing a deer. The denial is absolute. We think that because we built a concrete seawall, the water is ours. Number 5 is the monster we refuse to acknowledge, growing larger and heavier in the dark water right behind the house. Number 4, the Florida cottonmouth. Also known as the water moccasin, this is the guardian of the Florida wetlands. But in this state, a wetland is not just a swamp. A wetland is the drainage ditch behind the strip mall. It is the water hazard on the 7th hole of the golf course. It is the retention pond in the center of your gated community. The cottonmouth is a heavy, thick-set pit viper, dark brown or olive, often appearing entirely black when wet. And it is everywhere. What makes the cottonmouth so incredibly dangerous is its temperament and its location. Unlike most snakes that will flee at the first sign of human vibration, the cottonmouth is notoriously stubborn. It stands its ground. When threatened, it throws its head back and opens its jaws wide, displaying the stark, startling white interior of its mouth, the warning that gives it its name. But because it lives in the exact same water features that developers use to make subdivisions look beautiful, the encounters are constant. People fish in these ponds in sandals, teenagers wade in to retrieve lost golf balls, and when the cottonmouth strikes, it delivers a potent, tissue-destroying hemotoxin. The venom is rich in proteolytic enzymes. It literally digests tissue. A bite to the ankle causes rapid swelling, excruciating pain, and if not treated with massive amounts of antivenom, it leads to gangrene and amputation. People look at the fountain in the center of their neighborhood pond and see luxury. The snake looks at it and sees a hunting ground. Number 4 is the reason you should never, under any circumstances, trust a quiet pond in the state of Florida. Number 3. The eastern coral snake. This is the most deceptive killer on the list. The eastern coral snake is beautiful. It is slender, smooth-scaled, and banded with brilliant rings of red, yellow, and black. It looks like a toy. It looks like something you would find in a pet store. And it carries a venom so toxic it rivals the deadliest cobras on Earth. The danger of the coral snake is wrapped in a psychological trap. Generations of children have been taught a nursery rhyme to tell the difference between the venomous coral snake and the harmless scarlet king snake. Red touches yellow, kills a fellow. Red touches black, friend of Jack. People rely on this poem as if it is an impenetrable shield. But in the panic of the moment, in the dim light of a garage or beneath the shade of a palmetto frond, memory fails. The colors blur. People pick the snake up, assuming they remembered the rhyme correctly. The coral snake does not have long, hinged fangs like a rattlesnake. It has small, fixed fangs at the front of its mouth. To inject its venom, it must bite and chew on the flesh. It holds on, and the venom it pumps into the wound is a devastating neurotoxin. It does not burn right away. The bite site might barely swell, but within hours, the toxin binds to the nerve receptors. The muscles in the face go slack. The victim begins to drool, and then the respiratory system simply shuts down. The coral snake spends most of its life underground, hiding in the loose sandy soil and the heavy pine straw of suburban landscaping. It is right there, beneath the soil you are turning over with your trowel. Number 3 is the beautiful lie, hiding its neurotoxin behind a nursery rhyme that gets people killed. Number 2. The Burmese python. It did not evolve here. It was not meant to be here, but the Burmese python has changed the state of Florida more permanently than almost any other biological force in the last century. Brought over for the exotic pet trade and released into the Everglades by irresponsible owners and hurricane winds, this massive constrictor found a subtropical paradise with no natural predators and an endless buffet of naive prey. They can grow to 18 feet long and weigh over 200 pounds. The sheer scale of the devastation is hard to comprehend. The United States Geological Survey conducted a study in the deepest parts of the Everglades. The results were apocalyptic. Since the pythons established themselves, populations of raccoons have dropped by 99.3%. Opossums have dropped by 98.9%. Bobcats are down by 87.5%. Marsh rabbits and foxes are functionally extinct in these areas. The pythons have eaten the mammalian food chain down to the bedrock. And now, they are running out of food. So, they are moving. They are sliding north, out of the deep swamps, into the agricultural fields, into the edges of the suburbs, into Fort Myers and Naples. In 2009, in the town of Oxford, a 2-year-old girl was strangled in her crib by an escaped Burmese python that had been kept in the house. It is a tragedy that proves the mechanics of the snake. They are silent. They move like water. They possess a thermal tracking system that allows them to hunt in pitch blackness. You will not hear an 18-foot snake moving through the grass until it is wrapping around your legs. Number 2 didn't just survive the Everglades, it erased them, and we are still living inside the terrible silence it left behind. And so we arrive at number 1, the one I warned you about at the very beginning, the one that closes the loop on everything we have talked about, the one you might have carried home a memory of without ever realizing how close you came to the end of your life. Number 1. The eastern diamondback rattlesnake. It is the undisputed king of the North American vipers. It is the largest venomous snake on the continent, capable of reaching 8 feet in length and weighing over 10 pounds. It is armored in heavy, keeled scales, patterned with striking dark diamonds outlined in pale yellow. Its head is massive, blocky, and armed with fangs that can exceed an inch in length. When an eastern diamondback strikes, it doesn't just bite. It punches those fangs deep into the muscle tissue, injecting a staggering volume of hemotoxic venom. A single bite can deliver up to 800 milligrams of venom. The fatal dose for a human is roughly 100 milligrams. But what puts the diamondback at the absolute top of this list is not just its size or its toxicity. It is where it chooses to live and how perfectly it refuses to be seen. You think of a snake this large as something that belongs in the deep, untouched wilderness. But the diamondback thrives in the palmetto scrub, the pine flatwoods, and the brushy borders that line every single golf course, hiking trail, and subdivision in the state. It is the master of the ambush. It does not want to waste its venom on you. It calculates that its camouflage is so perfect that you will simply walk past. And so, it holds still. It sits coiled in the shaded brush, just inches from the edge of the asphalt walking path. It tracks your heat signature as you approach. It watches your legs swing past. It calculates the distance. If you stay on the pavement, it remains perfectly silent. You walk your dog, you check your phone, you breathe in the heavy evening air, completely unaware that a foot away, a massive predator with an inch-long hypodermic needle and a gram of tissue-melting venom is watching you pass. It only strikes when you break the invisible boundary, when you step off the path to retrieve a dropped set of keys or reach into the brush for a stray golf ball. The strike is faster than the human eye can track. It is the ultimate realization of Florida's hidden nature. It hasn't retreated from the suburbs, it is using them. Number 1 is the king of the scrub, and the ultimate proof that the deadliest thing in the grass is the one that has been watching you the whole time. So here is what this list is really about. It is not about fear, it is about the illusion of control. It is about the quiet agreement that lets a state pour endless subdivisions, parking lots, and strip malls over a food chain that is still entirely intact. The copperhead is still resting in the dead leaves of the northern trails. The cottonmouth is still holding its ground in the retention pond behind your office. The invasive pythons are still moving silently through the sawgrass, reshaping the ecosystem in the dark. And the diamondback is still coiled in the palmetto scrub, right on the edge of the manicured lawn, waiting, holding perfectly still beneath the ticking of the irrigation sprinklers, the way it has waited since long before there was anyone here to build a road. If this changed the way you'll walk into your own backyard, subscribe and stay for the next one. And the next time it feels a little too quiet out there on the edge of the grass, remember why. You were never alone out here. You just thought you were.